Peace, what's good, everybody? This is FD Elemental.
Peace, this is Mubdi.
And this is Through Our Lens. This is a discussion about the world as we see it, through our eyes. You know,
Through our lens.
I'm a black man, you know, you're a black man. We have, we're not a monolith. We could see different things. We have different experiences, but we want to have conversations as, you know, the way we see the world, right? So today's topic is very controversial because it's kind of what's currently going on today. If you look at the Kyrie Irving and Ye situation, you know, there's a lot of examples being made, right? Right. There's a lot of canceling happening, right?
Cancel culture.
So I have a different perspective on it, and the perspective that I have is modern day buck breaking. And if y'all don't know what buck breaking is, I think what's the guy who has the Masked Singer? What's his name? Nick Cannon. He kind of said it well on one of his shows. He was talking to a Jewish person on the show, and the Jewish person, he made a point. He said, when people start having certain kinds of language, we know what's coming next. We got a feeling of what's coming next. You know, we understand that kind of language, and we know what it means, right? So Nick said to him, okay, that's understood. But when we see somebody take the strongest black man and whip him in front of everybody, he used the term buck breaking, and the Jewish guy didn't even know what he was talking about. Right. And he started to explain it. So I have that approach. I have that feeling. This is buck breaking. What do you think?
Yeah, just the cultural competence that we have. We have a cultural awareness because of the trauma that people of African descent has been through coming to this country and being in this country. So we have a different understanding of what was happening than, you know, other cultures and everything like that. So being aware of the practices that always happens when you have somebody stand up or go against the so-called norm. I mean, especially in our culture, you know, from every black person who kind of stepped up, or every black person who goes against the norm or the so-called system as they go to, they always try to make an example of them or tear them down because they're going against something that's exploitative.
Right, and this is interesting because I think this is a deep conversation. It's multifaceted, multi-layered, right?
Deeply rooted.
So deeply rooted, right? It got some trauma tied to it.
Right.
It got practices of suppression tied to it, right? So looking at, let's like go into the situation with Kyrie Irving, right? The level of response, because he texted something, all he texted was a link to a documentary.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you saw the documentary or you know what the documentary is. I saw the documentary when it came out, and I own the book when he wrote it.
Right.
It's like a 700-page book, From Hebrews to Negroes. That's what the book is called. He didn't say anything. He texted a link.
Just the
now Nike canceling him. This, that, this. So it starts to show that there exist people you can't say nothing about.
Cancel culture. But you can say nigga all the time. And I could you could exploit anybody but another group. So I mean the problem is it's cool to be just like what goes around comes around. I figure everybody now want to call themselves niggas. I mean, but again, how this culture was, it was an anti-blackness thing. And you know, like we weren't let into the table or through the door to a lot of these corporations or doing business with a lot of these things. Now you're making them billions of dollars is welcome in, but you're still my nigga. You get me? And this is the mentality and problem that I see. You know what I'm saying? As soon as you're trying to stand up or do something for yourself, by yourself, without having to have anybody else influence it, then you become a threat to the power structure.
Like Muhammad Ali, like Marcus Garvey, like Malcolm X, like Dr. Martin Luther King. We celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King, but he was an enemy to the established people when he was alive. We talk about Muhammad Ali like a great treasure. They put him in jail, they locked him up. He was an enemy because of his outspokenness. They didn't like it. Right. So when I say they, I'm talking about the powers that be at that time. And there's people who was in power, right? And now we're in a situation where we can't say, so I'm going to give you a scenario, and it's going to be kind of rough scenario, but a person, because of the way the culture is, a person can't say, this person raped me who happens to be this. Now it's tagged now.
Now it's generalized.
Because it shows negative light. But like you said, you go on the radio and say, kill a nigga, lynch, you know, whatever. You could say that all day. So this is the other thing, Ye. Ye had said, when he went on Drink Champs, I watched the video that they took down. He went on Drink Champs with Nori, and he said, I'm about to say something anti-Semitic. He said, you ready? I kill a nigga. I shoot a nigga. And, you know, he talked about a woman. He called her a hoe or the B word or whatever it was. He said, that's anti-Semitic.
Because black people can be Semitic. If you're talking about like black people can be Jewish, and you talk about Islam, for instance, Islam is a Semitic religion. And you tell me if it's some Orthodox Christians could be considered Semitic. So what are you saying anti-Semitic? That means anti yourself? It doesn't really compute. Sometimes, if you follow that doctrine of a belief system and everything else like that. So we were trying to disassociate yourself with religion and race. You know what I'm saying? Because when you say Judaism is not, it is a type of people, but it doesn't go to a specific race of people. It is a belief system.
Which is a religion. Okay. And this is why you just led me right to where I was about to go. Because I work for a lot of Jewish people. I work with a lot of Jewish people. We get along well. I'm having problems with them, right? But I also pay attention to the conversations, right? I pay attention to, so I bought some Jewish books that they teach kids how to learn Hebrew, right? And I got these books in my house when they're teaching them how to learn Hebrew and when they see certain things and all of this stuff. We'll get to that later. But my understanding is this. You hear this anti-Semitic, 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 anti-Semitic. I did a Google search and said, what is a Semite? Right? And I got different answers depending on if I went to Wikipedia, if I went to Encyclopedia Britannica. They gave me different answers. So there's not a uniform answer of what Semitic is. But Encyclopedia Britannica said Semitic is a region where the people spoke Aramaic Semitic language, right? And this is the region, and they named tribes. They named tribes. They said Canaanite, Ethiopians, Arabs. It named them, right? So I'm looking at the tribal names, and I'm like, okay, there's names, according to what I'm saying, there's names that society that's supposed to be in there that's not in there, right? That's what I'm seeing. But it's a language. So my understanding is this. If you speak a language, we're in America, we speak English. Are we English from England?
No. It has been colonized by the English.
So we was forced to learn English. Right? So my concept is, oh, you speak a Semitic language. Did you learn that language for commerce or whatever? And now you speak it, but does that make you of the Semitic people? So that's the first thing. Second thing that bothered me, so I got like 1,000,001 questions. I would love to have a discussion with a rabbi or something on this, because this is my other question. Who is a Semite and who is a Shemite? Because it don't match up. Shem is the son of Noah, who the Hebrews and the Arabs and all these people come from. Who is Sem? Because that's not Shem, according to my understanding. And I saw it in one of the definitions that Shem became Sem, which doesn't line up with anything I found. So who is Sem? And the other thing is, are we talking about religion, or are we talking about ethnicity, if we talk about a culture,
right,
if we talk about an ethnicity, particularly a bloodline, because, and I'm putting it that way because there's certain things, and I'm not going to say it, I'm not going to throw out stuff, but there's certain things that I've heard when I did speak to some rabbis about bloodline versus religion.
right.
So the Hebrew Israelites is a bloodline, right? But Judaism is a religion. And many Jews say they of the bloodline, right?
Right.
But you have Ethiopian, they call them Ethiopian Jews, who they say, oh, they are also of the bloodline. So I'm trying to understand, one, how is that possible? Two, if it is possible, Ye and Kyrie is saying, I'm of the bloodline. Who is Sam, who is Shem? That is a question that I have, right? And the question is, you know, because they are two distinct names.
Right.
And one of them, I'm going to say it, one of them comes from, one of the names, their offspring is the Hebrew Israelites. And one of the names, their offspring is not Hebrew Israelites. So if we're talking about religion versus heritage, ethnicity, people, your bloodline, there's things that's like really gray in that conversation of anti-Semitic. And this is why Ye, and this is why Kyrie Irving was saying, well, I'm of the bloodline, I know who I am. And for some reason, it's wrong for a black person to say it here in this current time in this country. It's wrong. So going back to the movie and the book, I don't agree with 100% with everything in the book. But the book, I'm going to say 90% of the information is backed up. This person spent the time to do the research. He went into biblical verses and explained Deuteronomy 28. It talks to you, it says, you will be sold by way of ship to lands you know not, and you will till the fields and never receive the monies. You will be incarcerated and nobody will bail you out. Nobody will free you. Your women will complain. Your children is always going to be servants to these people. It says it.
It says
right?
it in the book. So it's like people have like destined or put a lot of stuff is indoctrinated into a lot of scriptures about the conditions of people and things that happen. So that's the reference. That's where it's coming from. So from in that kind of aspect and that's a viewpoint, it could be some type of relevance to like how the conditions of the people are, but in another words, for me, it's like, you know, people are just people. We're human beings going through a human experience, but we may become from different nations and tribes, but we're supposed to know each other and help each other for the benefit of bettering each other, not for division, anything like that. But so when Kanye or Ye or in Irving, I guess, has a statement that offends groups, you know, people come at them, but we've been offended for so long. And it's like, you know, where's the recourse for people of African descent and black people?
Not only that, we've been offended for so long, we've been offended by some of the same people who don't want to be offended. And that's the problem that I see. There's no compassion, understanding, there's none of that.
It's for
us.
Right. It's cultural competency. But you have to have people, those people who are aware of what, you know, the trauma that everybody, especially people of African descent, have been through. So I mean, I think it was somebody said it was a great phrase or a great statement that he made. It was Denzel Washington. He was talking about being a director. He was talking about Scorsese and having the cultural competency of writing something into a script. Because only an Italian would know the cultural norms of an Italian person that would do. And it's only an a person of African descent, an African American, would know the cultural norms of a person of African descent. You know how a hot comb smells when it's on burnt hair. Right. So I mean, it's like the experience that we talk about as African Americans. We have a specific narrative or cultural experience or cultural understanding of things than no other culture has. And the problem is when we say something about it, it's always just pushed under the rug, or not even it's not taken serious, or as if it's offending another race or another people or another culture. Right. So what happens when we are offended? Right. Where's the recourse and the shutting down of closing down of the support of all these other organizations that exploit us?
Well, here's the other thing. So it's a different set of rules. When we feel some kind of way, shut up and dribble, shut up and sing, shut up and act, shut up and rap. Right. That's how we're dealt with.
Yeah, so built like the entertainers. We're supposed to entertain you.
Right. So we don't have no feelings.
Right.
Right. So we don't have no feelings, or something's wrong with us if we don't see the graciousness, right, of what's happening. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming one specific group, but I have a question, and I would love for a response from our Jewish people out there. How many black people was involved in the atrocities of the Holocaust? I would like them to say that. How many black people engaged in the German extermination by the Germans to the Jews? How many black people? Right. Because another part that's not being told is black people was put in ovens too. That's not told, right? That's not even talked about. It's never mentioned. Africa, they did it in Africa, right? Right. Black people was done. But the next question that follows that is, how many Jews engaged in the exploitation of black people? Because I can almost guarantee you when it comes to the first question I ask, it's going to be a 0. I can almost guarantee that. But I can't say that on the other side. I can't say that. So while people are, you have your feelings and you're sensitive about somebody saying something, right? We know how this feels. We've never been a threat to anybody. Right. You understand what I'm saying?
I get it.
But everybody's a threat to us.
Yeah, but the one thing I always see is just like a trauma comparison. It's like always when people say something horrific that happened to a people or humanity, we will say, oh, but this happened. Yeah, it's still a trauma. The bad doesn't justify the bad. But you also have to put into context of millions versus a couple of, 100,000, but it's just the time span of the Ma'afa, the Holocaust of people of African descent, which is still going on. It still has an effect. You know what I'm saying? Because you still see it in the norms of cultural acceptance of things. You know what I'm saying? So the problem that I see is like the comparison. A wrong is a wrong. Doesn't matter who wronged it. It's still wrong. And the problem is like we're still healing from this wrong, and you can't compare it to another wrong because it's still wrong.
But here's why it keeps happening. Because the reason why I feel like it keeps being brought up is because people who look like you and me can't say it. We're not allowed to even say it because we don't control any of the mediums to get our message out. We don't have a campaign or funding or support to talk about what happened to black people during slavery. It's no funds for it. It's no initiative in the schools. It's nothing to put on. There's the African American Museum. It's one of the few places. But that's it.
But we not only just the African American Museum in D.C., but they also had another one in Baltimore. They had the Slavery Museum. So like the history is documented. Is people know that, but it has to be more highlighted and understood from generations that passed on.
We have no publicity campaign for it.
Yeah, but it needs to be more because it's like, okay, what's the budget for for these people of African descent that's been affected by this world history trauma that happened to people of African descent. Also, but Oprah Winfrey, she had a show talking about the lynching museum. So there are documented things of the traumas that did occur. But what is the reparations for those people who still are affected by it? Because this is like generations, just 2 generations, or even like you could say, because this has happened. This is not too long ago. This is in only a couple of generations that passed, but you still have a residual type of effect. And this is why reparations is still in order. This is why H-140 still needs to be reported and put on the books, because this still needs to be studied and having the cause and effect of how it's still affecting people to this day.
Well, I feel like, so part of me, yes, H-140, right? Part of me feels, and this is me speaking through my lens, the answer's already known for this. It's not, so slavery wasn't something somebody tripped over a rock and said, oh snap, I'm going to slavery. It was planned. It was planned from 305 AD from the Council of Nicaea. I keep saying this, I'm going to provide you with these different books. The book that I'm talking about right now is called Lost Tribes and the Promised Lands, A History of Racism in America. That's what the book is called, all right? And it's written by a Jewish person, all right? You're going to find a whole lot of clues of what I'm talking about ethnicity and this. You're going to find it in that book.
Well, it's still a good book that you can even look by Cornel West, Race Matters. You know what I mean? And he's been in the forefront of talking about racial issues and why this has occurred. I mean, because when we were brought to this, I mean, since the first slave ship came in 1619, you know what I mean? That's another book you check out, 1619. But it's like there's been a wrong and a trauma that's been going on, and this has a residual effect to this day. So until you correct that, you're going to keep on having same problems recurring and recurring and recurring, because it's like you're building on a bad foundation or unstable foundation, and your structure building up. It's keep on going higher and higher and higher, but the foundation is still messed up. Right. So until you address that foundation that you keep on building upon, you're always going to have the same recurring problems over and over and over again. So this is what you have to go to the root of a problem. You can't just go to the leaf and say, you can tell that it's sick, but until you start going and digging up the root and finding out what's going on in the soil, you're always going to have the problem.
Well, I think that, like I said before, it's because our voices are snuffed out.
Right.
We're not allowed to say, this person or these people did this to us. There's a concerted effort,
or a system of people.
Right. There's a concerted effort to maintain the public image of one group while destroying our public image. Right? It's been in existence. So black trauma doesn't matter. Right? Black pain doesn't matter. Nobody cares about it. Shut up and dribble. Shut up and act. Shut up and rap. Whatever. If we have a complaint, we're angry.
Right.
Right? And we're angry because we can't say what happened.
And then you consider it as an angry black man or angry black woman or angry black person.
Right.
Or then you consider those people.
Right.
And that's the problem, because if we're truly in this all together, my pain will be your pain.
Right. But the situations that happen to us, so there's a complicated dynamic. It enhances other people's bottom line.
Right.
So they're not going to speak against their money.
No.
They're not going to speak against their cash cow.
Or
right?
not only speak against their cash cow, but also speak against themselves.
Right.
Because if I did a wrong and I'm profiting from that wrong, then I have to take ownership of it first, and that accusation is going to incriminate yourself. That's like pleading. That's why people have the Fifth Amendment, so you can't self-incriminate yourself. Because you're basically a part of the system. So
I want to use this because this is going to bring us into a conversation, because you hear people say things like, well, we want peace. I'm always confused when somebody says they want peace. I'm gonna tell you why. What perspective of peace are they talking about? Because if I know that I'm in a country that took everything by force, labor, everything, what does peace mean from their perspective? Does it mean we don't want you to fight me and take the stuff back and let me just keep what I had and don't make me feel bad? Because peace don't mean that for us.
Right.
Peace is, I want to be able to live and not be under this system where I'm scrambling for money, while I'm struggling, while I'm stressed out, while I'm being attacked. That's peace, right?
Right.
Be able to have some economic stability. We don't have, we have some wealth. That's the opposite of what we have, right? So how do you get that with peace? You can't, right? Not in my opinion, because nobody else is going to give up what they took from your ancestors. They like, it's ours now. We're not giving it up. And I've actually saw videos where people actually said it. This is ours. We're not giving it up. So what? We killed your ancestors and took it. It's ours now. We possess it. Right. So where's the peace coming from? You always gotta. You depend on these same people to live.
Right, but you can't solve the problem with the same consciousness that caused it. Meaning that if the problem exists because of this human system that's been created, they're not going to solve it because you're benefiting from it. And I mean, what you have to do is, if you want to be fair and just, you have to dismantle it and create something totally different, new, from the basis, from the foundation of truth, justice, and equality. But if you're going from a point where this has been unjust from the beginning, then that's the issue. And that's why I said it's a recurring issue. Because of the injustice, that how things was acquired in the first place, it's still kind of warped and skewed. So until every voice and every person or every culture is represented fair and equitably, then you're always going to have a problem. And this is going to be the economic benefits is still seen today. You have a couple of wealthy black people, but it's not the majority of the whole population. So it's always say, oh, look, we're having good progress. Oh, look at these good people who made it successfully. This is, oh, you can do that. You can do it. Yeah, we can do that. But there's still been a wrong that has been created that has to be fixed. And this has to be done through not just individual, but it has to be through institutionally and through policy, because it affects us. And when you're talking about a group of people, a group of institution or a collective of people, this is the issue, because it was a collective of people that put you in bondage and put you into this condition that you're in. So it takes a collection of people also to get you out of it, but that legislation to get you out of it. This is why, like Chuck D was talking about, it takes the nations and millions to hold us back, because it's intentional to keep people on the margin. And it's not going to benefit you to keep these people out of the margin. I mean, keep these people on a fair and equal playing field. Because once you have the fair and equal playing field, then you become irrelevant. If you know what I'm saying, if everything was fair and equitable, then we wouldn't have this imbalance and it's an injustice. Things would be at peace, right? But since, like I said, it hasn't been built on that peace in the first place, this is why, and you're still building on a foundation which you have people who murdered, raped, and pillaged, our people, and you celebrating these people, then there's always going to be a problem, because that's the foundation that you're built on. Until you have the truth and fix that problem, you know what I'm saying, then there's always going to be a problem.
So I'm going to be me, and I'm going to say that I have some food for thought, in a sense, to make people think, right? And this is from my understanding, through my lens, right? I see the world, I see what's going on, right? I see what's happening, I'm paying attention to certain things, right? And I'm under understanding that there are different groups of people from different lines. And what I mean is, and I made it a comment before on one of the shows we had, You have man. You have jinn. You have angels. These are the things. Reading the Quran, it talks about it, right? Reading the scripture, it talks about it.
For those who believe.
It talks about in the Old Testament, Nephilim. It talks about the fallen ones. It talks about the fallen ones having offspring who are not Adams. It talks about all this stuff. So we have a human form, but I don't think all of us is human. I don't think all of us are descendants of Adam. I don't believe it. Because certain behaviors is telling me that.
Well, we have certain behaviors that are devilish, but you also have mental health issues, and you have problems. You have neglect of certain things, and that affect human beings. So this is all part of the human condition. So you can't just demonize some people with mental health issues. But the problem is recognizing those mental health issues and seeing what they are. So, but if you have a consistent history of people who do a specific action like genocide, rape, and like serial
and we do
because it's documented. You have specific people doing these things. Then you got to say, stop for a second. It's not necessarily us. It's these people, and I'm not saying as in generalized, but it's a certain action or a certain characteristic that has this types of effect. And now if you have a group of people continuously pillaging and doing damage all throughout the world, that is an issue. So I'm saying collectively as a world, what is the problem with these people who keep on causing so much chaos, trouble, and problems?
So my
it's not normal.
thought about that is maybe they are doing what they were created to do. That's my thought. Because it seems to always be them. And I'm talking about them, I'm just putting a quote.
Them, we're not putting that
it
label
seems to always
anything.
be them.
Right.
Right? That you can talk about a culture of, we sell the 7 seas and we rob people and we pillage them. And that's a sense of pride. That's terrible.
Right.
That's demonic.
It's
right?
crazy.
And then, we went to here, we took all this stuff from these indigenous people because they didn't deserve it. Because we're this, and therefore we deserve it. Who told you that? Right? So,
well, that's the belief system.
That's the doctrine.
Manifest destiny.
Right.
The idea of manifest destiny. If you ever read Charles Darwin, the survival of the fittest. It's those ways of thinking is what gives people empowerment to take out the actions that they take.
And also certain religious beliefs allow them to not feel guilt.
Well, guilt is
because
justifiable.
This is some of the stuff that I'm seeing.
Right.
People don't want a certain story to be told because it's gonna make them look bad and they're gonna feel guilty. Right? But and when you come out with it, oh no, that's false. It's a false narrative. If we took data that was written from the past and totaled up the murders, the rapes, it's in books. There was people, like we had a conversation earlier, right? Founding fathers was raping under 14-year-old girls. Yeah, so that's pedophilia. Right. But you can't say that about them because you can't judge them for that. Why not? We judge it for it right now. People want a narrative, right? People want a narrative where they don't want to feel guilt. Although they should feel shame and feel guilt. How many black people made movies with negative stereotypes of Jewish people? Name one. I need to know because I'm asking this, so anybody watching this, send me that. How many movies were made with people in blackface who were not black making a negative light of black people? Put that out.
Right.
And then the second part is how many movies putting black people in a negative light where black people were the actors?
Right.
Put that out. How many black people made a culture against a European type people that was destructive to them and got rich? Put that out. Now, how many people who are not black made a culture and make money and eat off a culture where we're selling death music to black people.
Right.
Put that in the quotes, in the comments.
Right.
Because there's a story that's not allowed to be told. That's why I do this. This is why I do this, because we need to be able to tell what we're going through. The world does not know what we're going through because our words are suppressed. I'm a college professor. I was talking to some of my students who come from Africa, and I was telling them about the atrocities here, and they didn't know anything I was talking about.
Right. Well, but again, it's the people in power don't tell these narratives because they don't want to lose their power. Sometimes people...
Their reputation.
Reputation or their power. Because if people learn about the truth of certain things, they wouldn't stand for it. You know what I'm saying? They'll rebel against it because, you know, inhumanity anywhere is a threat to humanity everywhere. So if you're talking about, you know, justice or, you know, and you're talking about peace, you can't have peace without justice first. So everybody wants peace, but they neglect to talk about justice. So until we have justice, we can't really have a lot of peace. So the just, and that's what's just, is the fair truth about everything that's happening. And once you start telling the truth, then you can start healing the trauma and problems that have been caused by it. So when people make comments about a certain people who have been through trauma, we're not negating and stopping or neglecting the trauma they have been through. But as well, we also have been through trauma, and that trauma affected much more percentage of people and the world much more dynamically than another trauma. But we're not trauma challenging, or we're not having a competition of who's been traumatized the most. And that's what it always seems like when you bring up your trauma.
Right.
You're saying, okay, yes, you have trauma, but yes, we have trauma too. And our trauma has been extensively so massive that, you know, we have to create new words for it, like the Ma'alfa, because you can't just say Holocaust. You have to have another word because it's been an atrocity. You know, it's a threat against humanity itself. Because, you know, if you think about Africa, or you think about people of African descent, when humanity started, when you're talking about religion, you're talking about existence, it started from this continent. And if you don't address, you know, that and everything that built upon that, you know, it's affecting humanity itself. You see what I'm saying? So when you say, you know, if you're talking about Judaism, you're talking about Christianity, you're talking about Islam, all those have roots and origins from the beginning in Africa. So when you say anti, you're saying anti-self. It doesn't make any sense.
So following that, as we wrap up, I'm gonna pose my idea, but what would be a word or phrase like they have anti-Semitism? And again, I work with Jewish people. I do work for Jewish people. I get along well with them.
Yeah.
You know, but I've also been in situations where Jewish people was very racist. I'm going to tell you that too, right? Because Jews could be racist like other people could be racist too, right? It's just a thing with people, right? But what would be a phrase that would have impact like anti-Semitism, but it relates to us? What would that phrase be?
Well, the anti-blackness.
Anti-blackness.
Well, anti-blackness, or that's
anti-blackism.
Yeah, but it's anti. Well, people just don't want to deny like truth. You know what I mean? If we want to start anything, if we want to base anything off, or if we have to debate the thing, we have to base it off of truth and things that are come from facts, right? Things that we can track, we can find that's true, and truth can withstand the test of time. And you know, our pain has been going on, and it's still going on, and it has to stand with the test of time. So there's something relevant to that. You get what I'm trying to say? So it's like you have to address the issue head on and say, you know, because of this is affecting that. You know, there's always a cause and an effect. If you know anything at all about science, that for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction.
Right.
So there was a cause for our suffering and our problem that wasn't God naturally designed, but it was man-made design, and we have to address that.
And we haven't been able to express it to the world. Every time we do, it's suppressed. And that's the challenge. That's why it keeps being repeated, because people are not feeling heard. Once a person gets out and it says, this happened to me, and people hear it and acknowledge that it happens,
right,
then that's the first step to healing and then improving the condition. But nobody wants it to be heard.
And spoken about.
With this term, anti-blackness, I think that we could go even further, and I'm going to say it, and the people who study will know what I'm talking about, but behavior against us is actually anti-Shemitic. Now I'm going to say it. I want people to comment. It's anti-Shemitic. And we should start using the proper terms when we say things, right? And I'm not talking about because somebody spoke a language. I'm talking about bloodline. I'm talking about the bloodline, right? And that's not saying everybody's Shemitic, but I'm saying that, right? Also, when you have different faith and belief systems who believe they are chosen and nobody else is, that's also negative, right? Nobody else matters because God chose them, and somehow they matter more, right? These are mentalities that we're dealing with that's not being discussed, really tackled.
That's a Zionist philosophy and outlook on life,
right?
But for me, again, my belief, my system, my understanding is this word Ubuntu is a South African word, meaning humanity is one. Meaning that I'm not going to trade my humanity for somebody else's lack of humanity, or trade. Humanity is humanity. It doesn't matter who or what people you come from. We share one humanity, and until we have a better way of thinking, mindset, and worldview of how humanity is all connected and we all related, and my suffering equates to somebody suffering over here, it equates to everyone suffering because it's a part of humanity. So until we have that understanding, like I said, we're going to always have the problem and all these back and forth things. If you can't understand my grief and my suffering, then, it's easier to dismiss it and to afflict it on somebody else.
But with that understanding, wouldn't that mean humanity is not one?
But that's the problem. Yeah, but that's at the current. No, I mean, at the current, if we really believe on something, you can share or empathize with somebody else's plight as just being a human being. So, and whatever religion and philosophy or way of seeing things, you want to become more human, more empathetic, or more humane to your fellow human being. And I think that's what religion or, your spirituality is supposed to do. Right. So when you say anti something, I am not anti a lot of stuff. I'm pro humanity, pro empathy, pro better understanding, pro better ways of doing things and relating with the earth, people, and community. So when everybody says anti something, like they say anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, or this, that, I'm not, like I said, we got to change our wording and change our philosophy. We got to say we are pro, we're standing for something, instead of always going, we do against negative things, but we got to also stand for positive things.
So say, I'm pro justice, right. I'm pro freedom of speech, I'm pro growth and development in a positive direction, and I might say something that you might not receive well, but it's not coming from a bad place.
Right,
it's coming from a place of me trying to learn. So with this situation with Kyrie, circling back to Kyrie and Ye, with this situation, instead of a public lynching or buck breaking,
right,
I feel
it should open a dialogue
because there's something that's not meeting, right? So I still have yet to understand They said the movie and the book was anti-Semitic. So what is it exactly? Because we need specifics. What is this thing that's triggering the, certain members of the Jewish community?
The community.
Certain members.
Certain communities.
Because again, I have relationships with people in the Jewish community. All of them are not saying that, right? All of them are not saying this is anti-Semitic, and not all of them are saying it. But for the people who feel it's anti-Semitic, there should be a list. This is anti-Semitic, that's anti-Semitic. Be specific, because if you just use the term broadly, I don't think anybody's going to learn anything from it, because we don't know what it means.
Right. I think this just should be like a teaching moment to have a dialogue and have conversations of definitions and what groups of people, because everything is a learning experience.
Right.
And I think we should have an open dialogue of exactly what they're trying to address, not necessarily anti anything, but as considered pro education, pro understanding, and pro moving forward. So
let's start. So moving forward, let's try to get in the spirit of like you said, of being anti, right? Just the phrase just doesn't come across well, right? You're saying it's a negative term. Anti. Let's use it as a teacher moment and say, let's have this discussion about this. Listen, you said this. This makes me feel uncomfortable because that, right? Instead of just throwing out a label and just like, there's no lesson learned. Right. That just means you shut up and don't speak your mind or don't say anything and walk on eggshells, because you're never going to know what's triggering the person. Because
it makes the person
It's too broad.
Right.
Right? Be specific. I need to know what words are the triggers. And I need to know what was said in this that is triggering you. So I can look into that specifically and address it. Solve the problem. What if this whole thing is just, I'm just being hypothetical, but what if this whole thing is just a misunderstanding of one word?
Right. So
it means something to me different than it means to you. I'm using it, I'm thinking it means this. You hearing me and you thinking I'm meaning that. What is that? What if it's that? Right? But people start getting their nuclear weapons together and they start getting ready to go to war over something that is easily solved if people could sit down and have a conversation.
And sit down and have a decent conversation. And
right.
This is the beautiful thing about language. You know what I'm saying? It's just like hip hop. We changed one word and made it mean something else. Or we take things and you play on words and have it connecting in where it really didn't really have a connection. And this is the beautiful thing about language. This is the beautiful thing about this culture. Because we can take things and make it mean something else, or put it together in a way that makes it still seem fly, but it has a double meaning.
Yeah, we customize it. We take it, we absorbed it, we process it, and then we told the story. So this is the hip hop conversation. The hip hop part of this is hip hop has always been that against the grain.
Right.
Speak your mind, raw.
And think out of
the box. Say what you want to say, right? And I feel like even that's being tied down, because you have the commercial hip hop, which is played on the radio. The message is the worst. Right? The message is the worst. It's going to lead our children to destruction and death. That's what they're pushing, right? That's what's being pushed. But you also still have the underground hip hop that still exists.
Right.
People don't get the sold out shows. People don't get, the big venues, all of that stuff. But that's the music, because some people was raised on hip hop. Hip hop taught them. You hear You Must Learn, KRS-One, and he talking about, different concepts.
Different concepts.
You have artists who've been talking about this for decades. And me as an artist, this concept of knowing who you are, I was spitting this 30 years. I've been saying this. So this conversation with Kyrie and Ye, I talked about it 30 years ago in my songs. Because I started studying, right? I've been talking about where's your bloodline? I've been talking about it. I had this song called Fake Justice. I was talking about it. Where's your bloodline? Who are you? It didn't. So we learned that, y'all were slaves, and then it stops. The conversation stops for some reason. There's a reason why the conversation stops. There's a conversation about that you hear in modern society, the 10 tribes was lost. No, the 10 tribes were sold into slavery. They weren't lost. Everybody knows where the 10 tribes are. They were slaves. It says it in the book. But the story is there's only 2 tribes left, and the other 10, or 3 tribes left, and the other tribes are lost. No, that's not true. We know where the tribes are. Right. So I've been talking about this for 30 years.
But this also comes into, like I said, religious beliefs and understanding. Like in certain sects of like Islam and other teachings, they believe in not having. Well, you still know who your father, know who your bloodline is, but there's no hierarchy on that. But it's the person's life and what deeds did they do.
Yeah, you're based off your
based on what your deeds are and what you did with your time on this planet and your earth, on this earth and the life that God gave you. So, and in that effect, with the bloodline, you know, you can have somebody from, you know, he's a descendant of this is such and such kingdom or kingship, but he's a tyrant, or he's an oppressor, or
right.
he causes havoc and chaos and all throughout the planet.
But it's key, and what you're saying, I'm not in disagreement with. It's that way in the other books too.
Right.
But the key thing is, you might research yourself and find that you come from a terrible backline. It might a bloodline, right? It may make you feel depressed, but you can choose your path based off your actions.
Exactly.
Right. So, and you may come from a great bloodline or a great group of people, and today you're at the bottom of the barrel, like us, right? Because that's what's happening. But we still have the right to know where we came from, and that's what's not being afforded. We have to search it out. We have to have the resources. So I'm saying this, I'm hoping that this gets traction, because you got a lot of wealthy black people. When other groups feel attacked, they have groups that finance, push for rights. Somebody needs to be financing and pushing for rights on this topic for us.
Right.
Because nobody's unified in it. We're all scattered around, right? We need to form something and say, let's do more research. Let's build this. And you have people who do it, wealthy in pockets, but it's not groups. It's not a group. So we need to form these groups. Dr. Claude Anderson talked about us collectively doing stuff together. We need to collectively do stuff together outside of just a conversation of finance, but history, Dr. Henry Louis Gates, all of these professors, all this needs to be pulled together in one cohesive unit.
Right.
Because
collective economics,
we are still kind of in limbo. I'm gonna tell you, once I started studying when I was in my 20s, I started learning about who I was. I walked differently, because it was a sense of knowing your heritage. Yes, we did a lot of messed up stuff as a people, but I know where I came from.
Right.
Whereas I'm not a dangling on a fish hook because I don't know where I'm from.
Right.
It made me see things. It gave me a purpose, and that's the point. To me, if you say, okay, we came from this, and this is how great we were, and then we fall from this level, we could get back there.
Yeah, but that's again of telling the whole story, and that it's not just his story.
Right.
Because if you always look at the story from the lens of the oppressor or the people in power, they're always going to keep some knowledge from you to stay in power. And if the knowledge that they keep from you empowers you, they can no longer be in power. So that's why they keep it from you, or kept it from you. And understanding that if they teach you that you haven't done anything, you will always think that you can't do anything. Right. This is a quote from Malcolm. But aren't you understand that we are descendants of people who created empires, governments, philosophies, religions, ways of life, then you will understand the greatness within ourselves. And we will try to live and aspire towards that. But to keep someone enslaved, you have to break down all of that. And this is the same thing when people are standing up. This is go back to buck breaking. If you see someone standing up and they're rising against the oppressor, if I'm the person who was oppressing, I wouldn't want that.
Right.
I would have to break him down so there was no other person that would stand up and keep on continuing that legacy. So why? Because I want to stay in power.
So wrapping up, got any parting words? Anything you want to say on a wrap up?
Oh yeah, knowledge of self, know thyself, and to thy own self be true. Know who you are, so you can know what you can do and know what you will be doing, so you can break the bondage of mental slavery.
And I want to say,
and this is through our lens.
I want to say, oppression, slavery, suppressing people, I'm going to say it's demonic and evil. I'm going to say it. Because some people see it as a tool, I see it as demonic and evil. So know what evil is. Know what demonic is, right? Recognize it when you see it. Because right now, people don't want those terms to be used because they don't want to feel guilt, which is telling me that there's a whole probably slew of mental illness going on that they can't handle feeling guilty, right? But if you can't handle guilt, stop doing things that's going to make you feel guilty. Be a better human or be a better person. I'll just say that. Be a better person. Well, stop using your influence to suppress somebody else. There's a book called Getting to Yes about the Harvard Negotiation Project written by Irvy. His last name is Irvy. If you're in a situation where you're trying to negotiate something, both of you should walk away from the table winning. You don't crush the other person. And I see this mentality continuing in negotiations, relationships. You have a group that just wants to crush the other group. That's the wrong way.
That's like a crab in a barrel.
Well, not just a crab in a barrel, because if one group is not the same nationality as the other group, it's another conversation.
Right.
It could be genocidal. You know, if you look at it, you can wipe people out. But they're so focused, somebody's so focused on winning at all costs, you're the cause, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't want to be the cause. And people are not dumb. People are awake today. So people are their eyes are open. They say, oh, people woke. I hear people say that. Oh, it's fake woke. People are awake. They see their eyes are open and they realizing it in real time when it's happening. That this is just an oppressive move, that this person's trying to run on me and they just want to suppress me. So be a better person. And if you're feeling offended, I didn't mean to make anybody feel offended, but if you feeling offended, if I'm saying demonic or, you know, fallen ones, I'm using all these terms and people's feeling whatever kind of way, check your behavior to see if any of your behavior fits demonic behavior.
But that's what Michael Jackson said, is it starts with the man in the mirror. So you have to look at yourself and say, am I doing the right thing? Am I being a better person? Am I being the best self that I am? Am I being my higher self? Don't go into your lower self. So we're just trying to get, this is just through our lens, but we're just trying to get people to be better people and, do better. Because when you know better, you can do better.
And I say, it's just the concept of the way I try to live my life is, did I bring something to you to make you better, or did I take something from you? I always think that way. This is everything I do, that's how I think. I want to bring something to you to make you better, right? I don't want to take from you in an exploitative way, take something from you. Because it's been happening for hundreds of years. I'm not saying we, because we even do it as black people to each other in certain ways. Right. We do it in our families, and consciously. We got to break out of that and be more conscious and more present in the moment. And say, what did I do to enhance this person when we met today?
Right.
Rather than what did I take or what could I get from this person?
But it goes back into a belief system. If you want for your brother what you want for yourself, if you love that neighbor as you love yourself, it all goes to trying to bettering the world instead of bringing joy and positivity instead of bringing demonic and devilish activity.
So we don't want to turn into, what is it, Daffy Duck? Mine, oh mine, right? And you just got to have all the jewels and all the boats and all the cars and mine, and you just take and you don't care about nobody else, right? we don't want to turn into that, but
Right.
you have people who actually live their life like that, and they probably get a charge or a thrill or adrenaline rush out of being that kind of person.
But that's what people, that's what society rewards you for.
Yeah.
That's what like capitalism. I mean, the same
For the worst behavior.
They reward you for greed.
Yeah.
It's like the more greedy you are, the more successful you're supposed to be.
If we all tried to live our life and we tried to enhance the life of people that we meet during the day, I think it would be much better.
It would be a better world. Yeah. But everybody doesn't think like that. But hopefully, we're gonna drop. You know, it's just like, you know, we could be that drop that caused the wave. We're gonna be that positive force that brings more positivity into the world, and that's how you got to think of it into this world. So if you're going through something, think about how can you do it. If it's a negative situation, think how you can change it into a positive situation. And that's a better outlook on life instead of being upset and mad and saying this, that, blaming. But look at yourself first and say, how can I do this better?
Start in your families, right? Start in your families. See how you're treating each other, seeing how you can help each other, right? Seeing if we actually teaching young people, giving them some skills that allows them to make it in the future where they're not dependent on people who may not like them or discriminate against them. You know, we wanna have that growth and I guess the development of, in a sense, being more selfless, right? In a sense of thinking about the big picture and not the small picture. But this is through our lens. Please hit the like and subscribe button. You know, comment, put some comments in the section for the comments, and we're gonna keep working to get some mind-bending, thinking kind of conversations going, because I think we just really need to have them. And some of these conversations is not going to be pleasant. Some of these conversations are not going to be easy. Some of these conversations is not going to make you feel good once you hear it. And we're not trying to make you feel bad. We're trying to make you aware of behaviors and things that you may be doing that cause problems for other people, right? So don't forget, hit the like and subscribe. Thank you for listening. F the Elemental. Peace.
Smokey, I'm out. See you next time through our lens.